What is the strangest thing that happened to you that you can't logically explain? I once was changing pants in my room before work and took off my belt. After putting on my other pair of pants, I went to put my belt back on, but that belt was gone. No one else was in the room, and I spent a good 10 minutes looking for it as I had simply set it on the floor. It's been 10 years and I've never seen that belt again. As a child visiting my grandma's house, my mum's mum, whenever I left the house I'd wave next door to Ken, who was always sat in the bay window looking out at the sea. They lived right on the coast off the North Sea in Hartlepool, UK. We'd never really talk, but just a little wave before I went to get into the car. One time I'm leaving my grand's house. I'm in front of my mum, who stopped at the door to talk to my gran. So I head down the steps and towards the gate. I turn back and see Ken in the window. Big smile as usual, waving at me. I give him a wave back. He stands up, gives me the thumbs up, and wanders towards the back of the room. My mum comes walking down the steps and asks, "Who are you waving at?" I replied, "Ken." To this day, I can remember my mom's face. She just went white, but didn't say anything to me. It was only a few weeks later when she plucked up the courage to tell me that Ken had died a few days prior to our visit to my grand's. I don't believe in ghosts, but I know I saw him. I can still picture his striped grey sweater with light stripes across it, him waving and getting up out of his chair. There was no one else in the house. He lived by himself. Brains are weird. I'm a firefighter, and we got a call for an overdose around 3 AM to a rough part of our district in the middle of winter. Unfortunately, the patient was long gone, and her dealer, or whatever, found her like that when he dropped some stuff. As we were packing up our stuff, mind you, this is a absolutely trashed mobile home, I hear something down the hall that said lights. I ask my partner if he said anything, as it was just him and I cleaning up. He said no. I walk to the far end of the trailer where I heard it and shine my flashlight. I get a reflection out of the window. They have a small tool shed and it had a flickering light. It piqued my interest, so my partner and I go out there. We hear crying and notice the door is padlocked. We cut it, and this little 6-year-old girl was in there. She said her mom puts her in there when she gets mad at her. She said she got scared when she heard the sirens and didn't know what to do. To this day I have no idea what happened or where the voice came from, but I'll take the win on it. Edit. A couple people wondering about what happened after. My partner and I took her to the children's hospital closest to us, and we wrote our report and ate chips and a sandwich we took from the lounge while they called a social worker. She was a really sweet girl. The voice was not a little girl voice. I 100% thought it was my partner, since it sounded like a guy. I once shut my ear in a car door. No idea how. Have tried to recreate it and can't. But my god, that hurt. This one is strange to me because it was so long ago and I'm convinced I have to be remembering things wrong. I was a young kid at the grocery store and I saw this toy helicopter, like Hot Wheels sized, that I really wanted for some reason. I, of course, didn't buy it, but the memory of it stuck in my head. A few nights later, I had a dream where I was playing with the helicopter, but I realized it was a dream and stupid young me thought that if I put it under my pillow, it would still be there when I woke up. After that, I woke up and eagerly checked under the pillow to get it. For some reason, it was right where I left it in the dream. As a kid, I wasn't surprised to find it there as it all made perfect sense to me then. But years later I have no clue how the toy helicopter actually got underneath the pillow. When I was around 14 I went to the kitchen around 2 AM for a snack and the refrigerator door was wide open. Our cat, Maggot, was sitting on the floor looking inside the fridge. He turned his head and looked at me, then the fridge door slowly closed and he strolled away. Also several years later my stepdad woke me up at like 6 AM and Maggot's dead popped in my mind. He then told me that Maggot had died. That cat was mystical AF. When I was about 12 years old I went up to Lake Tahoe with my friend and his parents who had a condo in Incline Village. One day, the two of us are walking to the bowling alley and cross a street in a crosswalk. Right before we get to the curb, a car comes really close to hitting us. All of a sudden, we are both up on the curb, like we were lifted a few feet. We both looked at each other strangely. Did you jump? Apostrophe. No. Did you? Apostrophe. No. We spent the next hour kind of dumbfounded. It didn't feel like a shove or any use of force. We were still in the street. Then we weren't. I hit a patch of black ice in the dark going 60 miles per hour down the highway. At the time, I drove a 1-ton cargo van. It hit the guardrail and flipped. Not only did I walk away without a scratch, the car was drivable, and I was only 30 minutes late to work. Edit, a word. I have a vivid memory of being at the Statue of Liberty as a child, on my dad's shoulders, seeing the skyline of New York City. I remember what we ate for lunch that day, etc. I remember the ferry we took. I've always thought about this memory and talked about it, but my family denies I ever went to New York City. I didn't go for the first time until I was 23, but strangely enough, when I went, I remembered everything just how it had been when I was there with my dad. When I was younger, in elementary school, I used to have the same dream every weekend starting on Saturday when I would go to sleep and then waking up in the middle of the night on Sunday and throwing up. The dream was always a bunch of numbers. Not even anything happening, just a bunch of random jumbled up numbers all over the place. I never understood why that happened, where the same dream would happen on the same night every week and I would throw up every single time. I always think about it and wonder what it was, or if it was just some weird coincidence. Also, I would not have any signs of being sick before or after. Maybe someone else has experienced this? Question mark? Question mark? One morning I woke up and noticed my camera was on top of the sofa opposite my bed. I knew I didn't put it there because it was a very expensive camera and it could very easily fall from this place. I had placed it in my cabinet. I went over, picked it up, and turned it on, and clicked the button to view photos. There were hundreds of photos of me sleeping, all seemingly taken from the back of the sofa. I was literally so freaked out. I couldn't stop crying. I lived alone. It was just photo after photo of me sleeping. The photos were taken in quick snap, where the camera takes approximate 1 photo per second. I later realized the camera didn't even have a quick snap setting, so technically it was impossible for the camera to take the photos at all. The timestamps suggest all photos were taken between 2 and 3 AM. I've never figured out WTF happened, how the camera got to the sofa, or how it is even possible for a camera with no quick snap to quick snap. But I still have a USB with the photos on it and it still freaks me the duck out. Edit, to answer a few questions. I'm safe. This happened several years ago. I now live with my partner and we have several dogs and a very good home security system. There was no sign of forced entry to my home. I owned the home, and I had the locks changed when I moved there because I felt uneasy about living alone. Good hunch, haha. I did go to the police. They did not give a shit. They said it's probably a friend playing a prank. My mum had a key to the house. Weirdly, this thread has actually jogged my memory about something potentially related I had completely forgotten about that was sitting deep down in my memory bank. Approximate 12 months before the camera incident, I received a letter in my PO box that was typed, not handwritten, and addressed directly to me saying, if I did not agree to meet with the sender, they would kill me while I sleep. To be honest, I dead set thought it was a stupid joke because I couldn't think of anybody that would want me to meet with them, and I binned the letter and never told anybody. I got 3 or 4 of those threatening letters demanding that I respond, but no actual way of responding or no hint about who it was from. The sender wrote, like I should know who it is, but I did not. One letter did provide a time and place to meet, but of course I did not attend. That was the final letter. I did move house and change my postal address shortly after the camera incident though. I'm alive right now. So obviously they are all talk, no action, haha. When I was in primary school, like year 1 to 2, in the cafeteria there was all these cups filled with milk every lunch. Red, green, blue, but only one yellow cup. Everyone would fight to get the yellow cup like it was the holy grail, and it had been this way for years. One night I had a dream that the cafeteria had gotten more yellow cups in, and lo and behold the next day, hundreds of yellow cups. When I was in college, a drunk dude fell from a 3rd floor balcony and got up and walked away like it was nothing. Seriously one of the weirdest / freakish things I've ever seen in my life. Edit. For those asking. University of Southern California circa 2009. My girlfriend got out of the shower and called me into the bathroom to show me the mirror. There was a very strange, distinct handprint placed on the mirror. I lived alone and she was the only adult that had been to my house in about 2 years. We each placed our handprints on the sides of the mystery handprint for reference and neither look anything like the mystery print. I still have no idea how it got there. Mirror handprint picture link. com//86BRMO. Edit to address a couple of ideas. I've lived in this house for over a decade. The mirror isn't newly installed. The mirror is cleaned pretty regularly. I've taken many showers and fogged up the mirror and have never seen it. Edit 2. Not the person I bought the house from, but the previous owner. She died in this house. I was watching my neighbor's 5-year-old kid a few years prior to this, and she was eating at the kitchen table. She asked me who was that lady that just went upstairs. There was no lady or any other person in the house. My dad owned a small garden shop, so I'd stay behind the checkout after school till the shop closed. This was until I see a tall man wearing all black, like a trench coat, walking past my dad and smiling at me before going into a staff-only area. I jump up to stop him, even though I was 7. This back area filled with new shipments. I turn the corner but nobody is there. There was no way he could have gone. I ask my dad to check the CCTV after closing, but it's only shown me jumping up and running out of frame. Weird stuff. Never felt comfortable there again. I was walking between bars in a college town and felt something hit me in the back. I turned around and saw a cue ball rolling down the sidewalk. I then spent the next 5 minutes walking up and down the street trying to figure out who threw it or what happened. I never found anyone, and I still have the cue ball. When I was 10 I had a radio and beanbag chair in my room. As I was starting to fall asleep the radio suddenly changed the channel multiple times before I heard the beanbag chair in my room slowly fold in on itself, making the noise a beanbag chair would make if someone were to sit in it. Not sure what caused this, but certainly freaked me out. On Reddit one night, I read that thread where the op hallucinated weird stuff until a commenter suggested that he check for a carbon monoxide leak. The commenter probably saved his life. I went to bed thinking, oh yeah, I never did check whether my new house's smoke alarms also detect carbon monoxide. I need to check that out in the morning. At maybe 6 AM, my wife and I awoke to our fire alarms screeching, with a recorded voice telling us carbon monoxide was detected. We grabbed the baby and the dog, piled into our car in the driveway, and called the fire department to check it out. After they tested, they told us no carbon monoxide was detected, but sometimes fire alarms behave unexpectedly when their batteries are low. This was maybe 5 years after moving into a house that's new construction. So yes, I was super delinquent in checking it. It wasn't even the first time I'd read that story on Reddit. Anyway, there is absolutely a logical explanation, an improbable but possible coincidence. But that's how I ended up spending huge piles of money on a bunch of Nest Protect units, so I could at least get a pleasant phone notification when my alarm's batteries are low. I was walking to work one really early winter morning, and about 30 feet from my house it felt like it got significantly colder. I zipped up my jacket and kept walking. About a third of the way to work the light I was going to cross it went out. No crash I could hear or anything obvious. It just went from green to dead. I thought, weird, but I got work to do. At the halfway point, with no sunlight anywhere, a street light way ahead of me went out. I stopped because as it flickered before dying it made me uneasy. I stood for less than a minute, and all the street lights in front of me, starting from the closest to the first light, started flickering and going out, and it was only the ones on my side of the road. At this point I said nope, turned around, went home and called in. I heard sirens later in the morning, but was not going to investigate. Been maybe 5 years and it still freaks me out when a street light suddenly flickers and goes out. Please subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more of Reddit universe.